Hey everybody, welcome to Planetary Gig Talk. I'm your host, Jefferson, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace, harmony, coherence, to help make a better world. And I'm very delighted today to be able to have a conversation across the Atlantic over there to Spain with a fabulous musician, a person that I met at Victor Wooten's camp some years ago, and looking forward to having a conversation because there may be a rabbit hole or two that we could go down. Gillian Harwin, thanks so much for taking the time. It's good to see you.
My pleasure, Jefferson. Thanks for having me. Any chance to talk about how cool music is, I will take it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, I think we met about 2018. I went to a music and nature camp, my first experience with Victor and Wooten Woods. And, I've gone back to a lot of spirit camps, spirit of music camps after that. And I was saying before how Victor and his brothers and Wooten Woods and Holly and all of this, so many doors have opened up in terms of musical inquiry and understanding. So it's just a fabulous place. And how far do you go back kind of with Victor or to Wooten Woods or
I discovered him. I was reading his book because I was really into reading about just the beyond practicing scales or learning songs or working on technique or any of that stuff. I'm a singer and a bass player. And I play piano and guitar and some ukulele. And so, I consider myself a musician that, I like the strings because then I could sing. So I was reading his book and I was in Costa Rica. And then I heard on the radio that he was playing in San Jose, Costa Rica, like the night before I was leaving.
Oh my
So
God.
I went and saw his show and I just edged myself right up to the front of the concert hall at the end of the show to get my book signed. Cause I'm like, dude, I'm reading your book and you're in Costa Rica and I'm in Costa Rica. Like, is this coincidence? I think not. After reading this book, definitely not a coincidence. And then I said to him, so like, I'm thinking, cause I go to a different music camp. For the last over 20 years, I've gone to a music camp in the Redwoods of California. It's
Wow.
called Jazz Camp. And I teach there now. And that was very life-changing, also opened so many doors and had this, I met a whole music community of just, for lack of a better word, a bunch of weirdos that wanted to get together in nature and play music. I mean, there's like pianos in the trees and, it's like this,
Wow.
it's big. It's like 350 people. So it has like this mini festival vibe. Anyway, so I've been going to that, but I was like, this is cool, but I want to do something else. And I'm working on playing the bass and I'm reading this book. And I said, so like, I'm thinking of going to your camp and are you like there? And he put the book down because he was like in the middle of the sign. He put the book down and looked at me right in my face. And he said, I love my camps. Like, it's my favorite thing that I do. And I'm there the whole time. My kids are there. Like, it's a whole thing. He's like, please come to camp. And so that summer I went and forget about it. I mean, I was changed forever. And it was small. It was still like pre-pandemic. Like the camps weren't selling out yet. Now they are, because I think like we all need it so much more. That like what he gives at that camp is what humanity needs. And that's really what it is. It's like human training, like how to become a great human, going to Victor Wooten camp. And then it happens to be like through this musical lens, which is so all encompassing too. And then he has this huge nature element in it, which I just loved so much. I mean, I've learned like serious survival skills at this camp. Whereas the camp in California has none of that. I mean, you're just in the redwood trees, which is magical, but like, there's nobody teaching you how to like hunt for rabbit blindfolded with a stick. You know what I mean? And so that element was really, really attractive to me. And the intenseness of that music and nature are completely one and the same. And since we are nature, That means that we are music. And that has always been my belief, right? That
Mm.
we are like, what happens when you're born? You come out not like, oh, goo goo gaga, like here I am. You're like, wow. All right, just like wailing, your mouth as big as it can get, and using your voice as its biggest volume possible for a little creature. And that's the sign of a healthy baby. The baby's crying, the birth is going well, right?
Oh.
Um, and then so like that was all tying in and like really being like all the pieces kind of coming together. And then right around that same time, right around 2018, my friend Sarah called me from Costa Rica. She'd been working down there for the last 20 years and got caught up in the plant medicine community and
Hmm.
ended up getting tapped by the Colombian shaman and being like, you're a shaman and you're going to come to the Amazon and we're going to initiate you into our tribe and you're going to become an ayahuasca shaman.
Wow.
She did. And so she was like deep in those studies. And I had like turned off all my screens and done this whole like mind body cleanse. And in that time, I was just drawing and just really like, I'm not going to draw anything. I'm just going to free draw. And I was drawing all this really psychedelic rainbow geometry, crazy stuff, plants, all this weird things, creatures. And I showed her these drawings and she called me and like we didn't talk for a little while because she was like deep in these studies. And she hit me up and she was like, yo, ayahuasca, I've been like studying with this plant medicine. And she was like, you need to call your friend Gillian and she needs to come down here and study with me and sing in these ceremonies.
Wow.
And
So
so
when was that about?
I think it was like 2017,
Hmm.
maybe 20, I think it was 2017. And so I did. I went down and I showed her all these pictures I'd been drawing. She's like, dude, that's plant medicine, like literally sending you like downloads of like, come hang out with me. So I did. I went down there. I was like backstage pass because she was like this shaman. So we're like rolling in and she's like the superstar of the night, right? And she's the woman. So she's the matriarch up on stage. So there's a bunch of men up there and a couple Colombian guys, a couple non-Colombian guys, but she's the only woman. And she's not, there's a thing in the plant medicine world that they're called ayahuasca sluts. And they're the like it's kind of culty like anything, and people are looking for themselves and trying to find authenticity in self and exploring new ways, and like, so not to be too judgmental, but they wear like all white and like G-strings and like it just very like seems you want it to be sexual freedom, but it's just still gets sexualized. And that also comes up in a lot of plant medicine ceremonies. That's been a thing, like much in the yoga community or the gymnastics community. You get these gurus that have all this like power, and then they take advantage of that power and call it healing or therapy or whatever. And so they actually that happened with the place she was working, and they blew the whistle and they got kicked out like within an hour.
Ah.
So anyway, so she like took clientele away from there. Now she's running plant ceremonies in her house with her boyfriend Brad, who also does iboga ceremonies, which is like the kind of masculine plant medicine to the femininity of the ayahuasca plant. She's
What
like
is the name of that? What is the name?
iboga. It's from
Yeah.
the pygmies in West Africa, like
Wow.
southwest Africa. And this is the plant medicine they've studied with for thousands of years, and it's what's created their laws. And it's just a ground up root, whereas ayahuasca is like a vine and a leaf, and it's got to be cooked and processed. The iboga is just like, bam, here it is. Eat the dust, like it's like eating cinnamon. And that ceremony is very different, and the experience is very different. It's very like you talk a lot and you ask a lot of questions and you like go to the moon, and it's a whole thing. It's really cool.
Wow, it does
Anyway,
seem like so many of these indigenous people had their music and their plant medicine.
the whole all of these ceremonies that I've been involved in, they all are radiating around the music. There was one point at so just to rewind a little bit, just to be like, what happened my first ayahuasca ceremony. So
Mm.
I'm with Sarah, I'm getting the VIP treatment, whatever. I'm right in the bed next to the whole stage. And there's like 100 people. This is like a mass thing. It's crazy. But she's like there very much taking care of me and everything. And so I like drink the ayahuasca, which is a very bitter, intense drink. You do hape or rape, some people pronounce it, which is like a tobacco powder that kind of opens up
Yeah.
your this area of your mind and your brain and your face and your everything, sinuses. And then so I drank, and you go and lay down, and ayahuasca is very internal. It's very, you go inward. It's very like kind of whining and like going like dealing with all your childhood trauma stuff and getting back to that inner child and the 5-year-old us, which was just like singing and dancing and being free before
Right.
we learned the world is full of war and drugs and sadness and
Fear.
horrible things. Anyway, so I was like sitting there on my bed, and there was a window kind of like behind my bed, right? And so I said to Sarah, I'm like, can I like get up? And she was like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You go outside, like just, stay close. So I got up and I turned around, I put my hands out the window, and there was a bunch of plants out there. And I kid you not, if plants have ever grabbed me, they grabbed my hands, and I heard a whisper, and they said, music is the answer.
Whoa.
And I was like, I knew it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
I knew
amazing.
it. And that was just like, and so then after I drank a few nights, I was there for a month. And after I drank a few nights, Sarah was like, do you think you can like sing? And so as the sun was coming up, or there's a couple different ceremonies, some end around midnight or 1, some end the next day.
Yeah.
And so I think it was that day, the one where the sun was coming up, and she's like, just get your ukulele and like play like Rhiannon and like, like gentle pop tunes to kind of bring everybody back to reality, because they've been doing medicine music all night, which is all like, minor tunes in Spanish singing about, they're like all the forest and the trees and all the things. And these are all like Icaros and songs that these musicians, like the ayahuasca musicians, have received all of this music from the medicine, right? My music is purely like, let's bring it back to reality, right? Or whatever, the other place. And so that was just like, whoa, because I've always been very much like stage, like woo, and like very, showy and whatever, and my big voice, like I've had big emotions and a big voice, and I've been just big and loud with music. And this time it was like so different, and I just tapped into this like really the softness in the music that I hadn't really, I'd felt it before, but like in this setting it just seemed to really like be super powerful in this sensitivity, like this the sweetness in it, and so that was that. And then every end of ceremony, that was my job then. And so I did that for weeks and started singing in such a different way. People came
Wow.
coming up to me being like, I thought it was a recording. And just like, the feeling of the sound vibrations of familiar stuff, like after you've been through this really intense experience. For a lot of people, it's really, really intense. And I have people be like, I was really spiraling like at the end of my ayahuasca trip, and like I heard your voice, and I just like it like brought me back to earth. And so that was really, really powerful to be experiencing like medicine and music, and this place where I wasn't on stage or like performing. I was just using music as this like really like almost like a like glue, right? A familiar glue that kind of brought everybody back to, the after. And that's like the whole thing with plant medicine, is like the integration, going back to your life is the hard part. We would all love to stay and just be drinking ayahuasca all day, every day, but
Yeah, I
we
was
have
going to
bills
say
to pay.
it sounds kind of otherworldly, and at the same time it sounds like completely natural reality.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
And it is there, but we just like we can't exist in this reality all the time, immersed completely. We need to go escape and go to Victor Wooten camp or jazz camp, or go to Costa Rica and drink ayahuasca, or go get initiated into the pygmy tribe in Gabon, whatever you get called to do. And I think that's how all that stuff works too. Like as far as the human, like what's going to make us a better human. And plant medicine obviously is ancient medicine, maybe as ancient as music. But I just think that those two things are like, they've been so demonized by modern everything,
Yeah, put
um,
down.
that this is all we used to do was sit around and trip out on plants and play music about it.
Yeah,
Like
that's it.
this was our whole purpose. And then here's a cotton plant behind me, interestingly
Hmm.
enough. That was the part of the big demise of everything, and the greed and the power and the wealth and the money and everything that started to break down all that, like nature culture, right? When we were just living with land and living with these plants. I also recently just watched The Secret Life of Plants, which is this documentary that Stevie Wonder scored in the 80s.
Oh, in the 80s. I mean, I read that book and we were talking about that in some programs recently, as you may know, but wow. So there's a documentary on it.
It's amazing. And there's like all this footage of Stevie like walking in nature with no glasses on. You see his eyes for the first time. It's just like,
Wow.
and he did this after Songs in the Key of Life,
Wow.
which
That was pretty
was his
powerful. Yeah.
grand opus. And it's such a random, like it's a very psychedelic movie, but it goes into, it's picks up all these studies that were started by this guy in India. And another guy like picked those, and they were like, yeah, you're crazy. The plants don't read minds. You're insane. So we're shutting you down. So this new person was, I think in the 70s, picked the studies back up and was starting to hook up the plants to like lie detectors, and had one of the guys who created the synthesizer made like a translator for the plants so that they could translate sound. And like crazy experiments with these plants. Like he thought about a match and the plant freaked out. Uh, this woman chopped up a plant, and the other plant, his plant friend, was watching it and was like losing its little plant mind. And then when that lady left the room and other people were coming in, the plant was all calm. And then that lady came back into the room and that plant lost its mind again. So they recognize people. Like, so there's just like, we're looking for higher intelligence, and it's literally in the soil that
And all
we will
around
be,
us.
yeah, and that we will go back into.
Yeah, I guess music and the plant medicine or the journeys threatens the control that the society puts on us. Um, but one thing you mentioned when you were talking about when you met Victor and reading his book, and he happened to be in Costa Rica. Boy, the coincidences just come fast and furious. When you sort of, I guess for me, when you sort of open yourself up to it, I mean, I ended up for about a week in the Amazon because I met this kind of a shaman seeker person who took people around. He took a whole group of Brazilians to Rishikesh, India, when I happened to be there. And I met him. We became friends. I kind of wrote him into this audiobook thing I did, also inspired by Victor, soundtrack for a book. And he was one of the characters who read the voice. And then he said, oh, you got to come down to the Amazon and make it like the book. And so that kind of is how it all happened. Now, I did ayahuasca only 2 times. And the first time I thought I was going to die. And they do call it the vine of the soul, and, take you down to zero and then bring it back up. A friend Marshall, who I met at Vic's camp, said the music is the medicine. And that's an interesting concept as well. We have all these other things around that make us happy or think we make us happy. But anyway, but just I do. This is so fascinating. But let me ask just a little bit, kind of my standard thing, because I'm curious. So how young were you when you started playing music? Were you in a musical family? Did you just pick up you're zero, you were in the womb?
I think my mom says I used to sing under the church pews, and I didn't know the songs, but I could catch the melodies. And then my first like performance memory, I was 6 and I loved singing. My babysitters were like, how does she know every lyric to every song?
Mm.
And I think I just liked the way that I liked the way it felt in my mouth, like vibrations and like the notes. And I loved the rhythm of the lyrics, right? I was like Grease. I knew every word to Grease or Annie Get Your Gun and Oliver and like
Mm.
we had records and stuff. Nobody in my family was really a musician. My grandpa played ukulele a little bit, and they would do, like sing-alongs in the car and 40s and 50s shit. Oh, sorry, mine's not supposed to swear on here. Sorry.
Okay.
um, and so, and yeah, I think I just always knew I wanted to be a singer, and I just wanted to sing. I think I was also the youngest, and I was a little bit ignored because, like, obviously, when I was born, my mom had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Like, that's a lot to have a baby in
Yeah.
tow, also. Um, and so, like, what I was eating, sleeping for basically a year. So I think I just was like, when I sang, I got attention. And so I was like, ooh, this is a way for me to get attention that I'm not like getting in trouble.
It is interesting. I mean, it's so great. I mean, I think we all have that, but it kind of gets drummed out of us, if that's a word,
Oh,
by
it got drummed.
society. And
They tried. They tried.
yeah,
But
you go to school and you got to be quiet and this and that. I mean, I have 5
mm,
grandchildren now, and I can kind of see how it just, man, you got to be able to survive in this big world, and that doesn't always include playing music. But so what was your first, I mean, voice then was your first instrument, but
totally.
what was your, what was the order of instruments that you played, and kind of how young, and then you were in bands and blah blah blah. What was that trajectory?
Let's see. Well, my first singing performance memory was singing the Rainbow Connection in my living room. And my grandma was the one who was like, girl, you can sing. And she was always very supportive and like thought I was, amazing. I think I remember I'm like, I nailed it. I nailed it, right? You guys,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
did
yeah,
it. It was good. I
yeah.
hit the melodies. It's a hard melody too. Anyway, so that was it. Like that was from that day on, I'm like, this is my shit. This is what I'm doing. And then I told my mom when I was around 11 or 12, I got all really like worked my courage up to go to her and be like, I'm about to tell my mom my dreams. My big, this is what I'm doing with my life dreams. And I went into her and I was like, Mom, I want to be a singer. And she was like, well, don't expect me to be your stage mom. And I was like, oh no, that's not the support I was hoping to get. But like what do your kid I'm in the South Bay, California, how do you become a singer there? Like she didn't know the steps. She knows nothing about the music industry or
Right,
anything
right.
other than, probably it's the corruption surrounding all of it. Anyway, so I was kind of on my own. My dad paid for my voice lessons. As soon as I turned 16 and could drive myself to my voice lessons, I started
Mm.
taking voice lessons. People at school were like, you sing really well. So I started to hook up with people in school and singing with them. I like killed it all, the talent shows. And then I didn't really know that there was like music schools. So I just ended up kind of following more of like a Spanish path. I started also traveling to Latin America when I was a teenager
Wow.
and learning Spanish. And so that was like, well, I guess I'll just follow that and like have music kind
Uh-huh.
of just always there. And so I was traveling a bunch. And then I finally started taking classical voice lessons and discovered I had this huge voice and it was perfect for opera. And my voice coach was like, and the first time I sang with like an operatic tone and like tapped into the power of that,
Hmm.
I was like, whoa,
Yeah, that is big.
whoa, whoa. I didn't know this could just do that. Like it was insane. And so then I applied and went back to college because I had quit college like a year and a half in. I'm like, I'm just gonna go move to the Virgin Islands and like clean boats.
Not a bad
Um,
plan.
yeah, I did. I totally did that. It was super fun. And then I eventually went back to school, got my degree in classical voice from UC Santa Barbara. which actually has a really great ethnomusicology program that I
Oh,
probably, if I went back, I'd probably be an ethnomusicologist.
mm.
But I didn't. I just had to like whatever. It was too late to change my major, so I was like, whatever, I'll just finish this opera career. And my voice coach heard me singing like a dirty song in the quad one day with my ukulele, like really dirty. I'm not gonna sing it on here, but it was this song called Shave 'Em Dry by
Ooh,
um
it's a blues song or something.
yeah, like from the early 1900s. So it's just so dirty. Anyway, he heard me singing that and he was like, you should do that. Like your voice is great for opera, but your personality isn't. And that's your personality.
That's interesting.
And then I had a
But
band in college.
so you started
Uh,
playing ukulele and string things.
Actually, when I was
Yeah, back
20, I picked up the guitar and I started playing. I took some lessons and uh, just because I was so sick of like having to ask somebody to play guitar so I could sing. And that was my main driving force. And I think I didn't think about ukulele till later. It just seemed
hmm
like, why would I play the ukulele? Because yeah, I should play the guitar because that's what people play.
Right.
Um, but of course, I love the ukulele now. And it's just like the guitar, basically. Just missing a couple strings and much, much smaller.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, and then in when I was at UC Santa Barbara, I was walking by the upright bass room and somebody was playing solo upright bass with a bow. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, what the hell sound is that? Because I didn't grow up going, I wasn't in band, like I wasn't around an orchestra or, like I kind of like theater was a little bit cheesy for me and like not, I wanted to express myself and be myself. I didn't want to pretend to be somebody else. And so the blues, I really got into the blues. I was hanging out with John Lee Hooker back in the day
Ooh,
in
yeah.
San Jose. I was in a band with his nephew, Archie, and kind of got on that scene. I was going to JJ's Blues Lounge, which was down in San Jose on Stevens Creek Boulevard. And so I was singing a lot of the blues, then I discovered my opera voice, and then I discovered the bass, and I was like, well, I should learn the bass. And so my bass player in my band, whose dad is actually Stephen J.
Oh,
from
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Gal Yankovic.
Yep.
Miles and I were in college together. So
Wow.
Miles stole me a bass from the bass room because there's like 8. So UC Santa Barbara. Brought it to my house. He's like, "You love the bass. You should have a bass in your house and just live with her. It doesn't even matter if you play her. Just live with the upright bass, and you're gonna see how great it is." Because he, of course, is this great upright player.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I learned a little bit. And then as soon as I graduated, I got my own upright bass and started really digging into that because I loved the whole like singer and bass, like the bottom and the top. It's
Mm.
just like the perfect combo. And tuning my voice to just the a root
Mhm.
foundational note is just like singing with a drone. There's just like something really like complete about those two elements of music. And so I played upright for a long time. I gigged all over. I had a couple duos, had a couple bands, did this, did that, took more classes, kept studying, found the jazz camp, started really digging into bass there. I worked at a Kumbwa Music Center in Santa Cruz,
Mm.
in the kitchen. I was a dishwasher and I worked the bar sometimes. And so I was just seeing this amazing live music all the time. And then while I was living in Santa Cruz, my boyfriend at the time, well, there's a little hiatus of a 3 year. We bought a sailboat and we went sailing through the Caribbean for a few years. So I was
Oh
kind of
my
like,
gosh. Wow. You could have a movie about your life.
I'm working on it.
All right.
Um, and so then after our boat days, we moved back to Santa Cruz, and he got cancer. My boyfriend got cancer.
Mhm.
And it just shook us both to our cores. I was like in my early 30s. He was in his early 40s. And we were just both like, whoa, we're going to die, dude. We're literally going to die. Like
Uh,
it's for real. We're not going to just be young forever and like miraculously just never die. We're totally going to die. And so he's a surfer and wanted to go surf big waves. And I was a musician. And I'm like, I think I need to move to New York for a while. And so he drove me to New York with my bass and a bag of clothes. And I was going to go for 3 months. And then I ended up staying for 15 years.
yeah. New York's a
And
great place. Great place.
it just for music education and like to become like a great, just be around so much greatness, musically and historically. I loved it. I just ate it up. And just was like, hey, Ron Carter, can I take class with you? He's like, sure. I mean, just like whoever, whatever, and anything goes in New York. And I just studied and studied and studied. I took classes. I was going to get a master's degree while I was there, but I just didn't really find the right program. And then I found out you could just study with those people anyway. You don't even have to go pay a bunch of money to a school. And that was it. I just was there. I was gigging, studying, learning, playing. I eventually picked up the electric bass. And then my boyfriend ended up being Fred Cash, whose dad was Fred Cash of the Impressions.
Mm.
So he's got like all the Chicago soul history and just taught me everything about the bass and
Wow.
Black culture and how important it is for us to know that stuff, because it's of course not taught to none of
Yeah.
it in
Yeah.
school. We learned that Christopher Columbus was a hero and the Africans migrated to America or whatever. Um, so hearing like his experience in the music industry and just as a Black man um and all of that tied together was just like, it's like any immersion, right? You want to learn about a culture, you go and immerse yourself in that culture. So I was just trying to do that as much as I could by um just hanging out with everybody I could, respectfully. There's some spaces where we got to respect space. um and yeah, just like consume, 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 try to become the best musician I could be. And then I eventually, 15 years, I was kind of like, now what's going to happen? And
Yeah.
I just kind of still had a craving for a master's degree. So I found Berkeley Valencia had a really cool 1 year master's
Ah.
program
Ah.
in contemporary performance and production. And I'd done a little dabbling in production. I'd put out a couple records already. But I wasn't, I mean, I was like the producer in the studio, but I wasn't like engineering or mixing or mastering or doing any of that stuff. Just like, oh, can we make it like this and whatever, like, but I wasn't actually like in there doing stuff. I had like real producers working on that stuff. So that was that. I applied, I auditioned, I got in, I came here to Spain in 2019, started working on my program, ended up losing my apartment in New York through a series of events that December 2019. And then the
Mhm.
pandemic happened in 2020, March. And we all had to just basically, excuse me, go home, go into our houses,
Yeah.
and we changed to like Berkeley online. But since I'd lost my apartment in New York and they offered us a visa extension here, I was like, yes, I'm just going to stay here. And so
Yeah.
here's where I've stayed. But it's been, I'm also just turned 52, and I'm kind of at that point in my life where I'm just like, uh, also had a parent just pass. So I'm like,
Mm.
just like, wow, whoa, and I don't have kids and I don't have a partner. So I'm like here with myself in this phase. Um, and with music, I teach so much music and try to um, get people to like spend time with music. A lot of my friends too, their kids are all now in their 20s and they're like, who am I again? And I'm like, you're the same that you were when we were like 18 or whatever. You
Yeah.
just did all that stuff. But we just end up kind of back where we were, and really encouraging people to study, particularly I think singing, because it's so body focused and that's where we live, is in our bodies.
Hmm.
And bodies, if you look around at an airport, you can probably guess which pills people are taking, because we're all not really that healthy. And it's not our fault, it's just how food relationships and humans has
Yeah.
become in modern times. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to like change societal habits when it comes to like how we're dealing with our bodies. So I think singing is like bringing like real body awareness. It requires focusing a lot on our breathing, getting our muscles to relax in like this area where all this action happens, our swallowing and breathing and talking and eating and all the things that happen
Yeah.
in our face. Um, and and it's also like, what are we doing with our time? What do we do with our time? I know I have moments in the day that I can either like do whatever, or I can sit down with any of my instruments and just play a song. Or go
Mhm.
to my computer and work on some of my production projects, or just sit and like I do this thing called pie hole journaling, where you just play a couple of chords and just sing what's on your mind.
Mm.
Um, and just kind of channel. It's like a very like
Sounds cool.
roomy kind of exercise. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds fun.
and like, some surprising stuff comes out when you're just kind of letting rhythm be this like basis for your kind of preacher for yourself to kind of start getting like a snowball rolling. And I've like sometimes in my pie hole journaling, I say stuff, I'm like, damn, I'm like a prophet. But when we allow music and rhythm and harmony to like be this like base for us to kind of find freedom to float over the top of with our thoughts and melodies. Um, I just think there's no better way to spend your time.
Wow. Well, I mean, your life has been just a kind of an amazing story of a musician from day one, and just music has led you along with coincidences and non-coincidences and everything else. And I mentioned before, I often try to ask, because the point of, in a way, of these interviews and podcasts and everything that Planetary Gig Society does is to try to bring an awareness to add to the conversation in a small way or whatever about what is this power of music. And it's clearly led you along for amazing, all the things you were talking about. I'm like, God, I wish I'd have done that. Um,
Mhm.
so, you just were mentioning about how, um, it's just a fun thing, a wonderful thing in life to do, to kind of have music be that support spirit, or support base, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, how do you define that power of music? So, if you tell other people about it, if you had to tell like a whole country of people, well, listen, you ought to do a little more music because, um, how would you define that power of music? And then what do we do to have more people kind of, I would say, get it a bit more, so that we just don't have to run around with, guns and fighting each other and masks and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it seems to me there's a way, that we
Yeah.
can do this, but
Well, I think we
we don't
used
really
to.
realize we can.
And I like, again, like going back to, let's say, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, I think that's exactly what we were doing. We'd wake up in the morning, there was like a morning wake up song, and then you do the make the breakfast, and there's a song you do for the breakfast, and you get together with your whoever, and we all do like a little sing song while we do the things,
Go
and
out
like
and
music.
go out and kill a bunch of animals and make
Yeah,
some
like
meat, as they call it, and then come
totally.
back and sing.
Yep, and celebrate with, for the harvest and the kill and the birth and the death and the marriage and everything. Like there was just that was what we did. Was music was just ingrained in our, there was no you're a musician and you're not.
Right.
Clearly there's always been like, that's the shaman person, and that's going to be the plant person, that's going to be the weaver, and we're called to these certain kind of roles in our little
Exactly.
circles. But I think everybody kind of we sang, we get a voice for free, you know, like why
Yep.
wouldn't we be singing? And so as you say, like power of music, I mean, it's everything. Like it just goes back to the music of nature, right? It's frequency, it's vibration, which down to our little tiny little string cells is what we are. And I just think that when we're participating in the vibrations of the nature, or with our instruments that we've created, which are really cool. I think nature inspired us to want to, be like it.
Hmm.
And so we made all these, are made like piano and the piano.
Yeah,
the
who did
bass.
that? Yeah.
I mean, like the all yeah, the guitar, like all these amazing instruments, and beyond. I mean, these are just the basic ones. Like I play the musical saw. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. So these instruments are, and I love Vic always says these instruments, or well, actually a lot of people say this, but these instruments don't play themselves. Like we are the music. We make it's like a puppet, right? The puppet
Hmm.
just lays there until the puppeteer comes and puts life into it. It's the same with these instruments. And so I think communing with like frequency and vibration is like should be like daily ritual, like brushing your teeth and eating food. um it does everything good for us, that everything about it is good. And it's for us to express ourselves, like talking about, be quiet and close your mouth and do, shutting us down as we get older and older. This is at least a safe space where you can be as big or little or angry or sad or whatever as you want to be. Music is so like whatever, like just hang out with me. I don't really care what state you're in. Just I'm here for you. She's like a silent best friend until you
Hmm.
start making her come to life. And then she's just like sparkles and rainbows and flowy things and vines and clouds and like, all the things that music is. Um, and and I think it's just that. I think it's believing that we are not musicians. Everybody is born musical.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've made it this like separate thing is kind of silly to me.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we still have a lot of elements of music involved with ceremony, but I just feel like our ceremonies have become um,
You mean
some are
our societal,
shallow. I don't want to judge them and say they're shallow, but kind of
you know,
shallow.
our societal ceremonies? You mean like the Super
Yeah, like,
Bowl and
yeah, exactly. Things where there's music celebrated. I mean, they're cool and fun and grandiose and whatever, get drunk and party at the wedding. And but like, I don't know, just after being in like Iboga ceremonies and ayahuasca ceremonies and being with those musicians. Oh, I remember there was one time I was in a ceremony and one of the musicians got some allergic reaction and the whole band had to go and like deal with this guy who had this something going on, like rash on his back. And my friend Sarah came up to me and I'm like deep in ayahuasca. And now we're in this crazy San Pedro cactus labyrinth in the middle of Costa Rica. It's insane. And she comes up to me. She's like, Gillian, is my best friend from like 10th or 8th grade. Can you sing? We can't sing. We can't have dead. Like these people are on medicine. We can't have dead air. And I was like, I guess so, but I feel like I'm like
somewhere else?
no, I feel like I'm a poser. Like I haven't earned my right to go and be on the stage and be a plant medicine person. She's like, it's okay, you can do it. There's fine. So I go up there and I grab a guitar and I just start strumming like a couple of minor chords and just improvising, like pie hole journaling about like the stars and the sky and nature and we are the
Mhm.
music, sound is us. And, just it was like all coming through, no problem, and just kept that vibe going until the band could come back. But I just think that ceremony is really important. Communing with nature in really deep ways is really important. Whether it's at Victor Wooten Camp or with, plant medicine in Latin America or Africa or wherever, the Southwest, peyote with Native Americans, like, whatever. Um, I think you just have to kind of go to what you're called to. Um, and not everybody's called to music, but I think everybody likes to sing or likes the idea of singing or kind of wants to sing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that it's everybody's birthright, in my opinion. I think we come out singing and we should be singing our whole lives. And
Mhm.
again, it just goes back to like, it is the safe space where I can be really loud or really quiet or really happy or really sad or really anything. And
Yes,
it can be used to get attention. It can also be used to like calm and like just commune with yourself, and it's free.
yeah. Since
Like,
I've learned so much about it, which I didn't know, I kind of thought as a kid or as a young person that musicians were over there. Those were people over there. I didn't know how they did what they did. Um, but now I just proselytize music. I talk to a lot of people about it, and they say, "Oh, I don't have a musical bone in my body," and I say, "Baloney." You know?
Every bone in there is musical. And I
Yeah,
have people come to me too for singing and they're just like, oh, I'm tone deaf. I'm like, no, I will prove to you that you're not tone deaf.
yeah.
Every single brain is capable of mimicking a pitch. We just have to get out of the way and let the brain do its work and get our breath and everything else in check. Um, and I've seen Vic prove it a million times that he can get somebody to make music in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just believe that that is our birthright and that we are all musicians in our souls, and we are music. We literally have
We,
heartbeats,
we
you know.
literally are music. When you see cymatics and see the little grains of sand that spin with the sound into shapes,
Mhm.
I just think we're spun sound. It's kind of wild when you really put aside what we've been told about what we are through religion or society or capitalism or whatever it is, and you just realize you're just a big chord, you're a big note, you're a big beautiful note, and
Mhm. And like a conduit, right?
no
There's the sky, there's the earth, and I'm in between.
no
So
wrong
I
notes.
might as well make some sound while I'm here.
Yeah, no wrong notes. So I mean, I think it's a good answer. It's a good task, sort of. Maybe proselytizing is not the right word, but sharing music, and um, I guess it's the best we can do. Spreading joy, spreading that confidence that you get, and everything.
Like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
That's a good goal, a good life goal. Well, Gillian, I don't know if you have anything else. You've covered a lot of territory here, and we have. Anything else you might have thought about that you wanted to add? But I really enjoyed this conversation and learning about your life and the things you've done. And again, I'm like, damn, why did I go to law school? You know, why
And
why
I'm always like, damn, why didn't I go to law school?
but you can't do everything. And I do have I used to one of the things I would tell clients, I represented nonprofit organizations in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, and I'd say, well, there's this legal principle: no matter where you ride your horse to, that's where you're at. So
So,
in life, I mean, you can start doing something different anytime, and nothing you ever did in the past has to control what your future is. And boy, music will give you a good future. Just ask Spirit of Music to help out a little bit, and she'll open some doors and windows and everything else.
well, and keep our brains strong. Like I want my brain to last as long as my body. So music is the only thing that makes both hemispheres work together.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a no,
Well,
it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
I guess the last thing I'd want to add is I actually have written a stage play called Wonders World, which is a lot about all of this stuff. It's it kind of takes all my life experiences and puts them into these puppets. It's all a mix of like puppets and people.
Wow.
Um, and Wonder ends up losing all their senses, becomes senseless, getting lost in a broken heart and screens. And their sidekick, comic relief parrot, is the one, speaking of wise birds, is the one who takes Wonder up into Wonder's world, where one by one, Wonder regains their senses, but ends up blind at the end. They don't get their eyes back. Because that's, I feel like, a root of so much of our problems in our world is that we're using our eyes to judge each other,
Mm.
even ourselves. I mean, I'm guilty of judging like I'm getting older, I judge my wrinkles. Um, just temporarily. Then I'm like, well, the death, 6 feet under is the option. So I'll take the
Yeah.
wrinkles.
Yeah.
Um, and so Wonders goes back into the world exactly with this dream of like helping people see for real, which is not judging each other for how we look or what gender we are, or like realizing that we're all just humans and that we do have this birthright to make music. And that is literally, and Vic has said this too, you give me like a room full of politicians and let me put them all on instruments and get them playing music together. And we're going to have a whole different experience of
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
politics can be.
Oh, what a
So,
great project. So, is that
so be on the lookout for Wonders World coming
okay?
soon.
Well,
Just
yeah,
stay
no, I can't.
tuned.
That's fabulous. World needs a wonders world.
We need wonder.
We need wonder.
This is looking into the sky and wondering about who we are and what our place and everything is part of the magic of being a human.
Yeah, I heard a woman on one of these little shorts that you see on Instagram or somewhere, and she was saying she was in prison, I think, in Iraq, and she realized that she was a journalist, she was a political prisoner, and she needed to write. So she got some like a roll of toilet paper and an eyebrow pen and wrote, and it made her happy. And so her point was creativity brings you happiness. And so much creativity is involved in music, no matter what you're doing. And so I guess the corollary of that is, destroying doesn't make you happy. I mean, entropy may be part of the process, but it doesn't compare to what creativity, and particularly through music and the arts and whatever, can do. So kudos for that. Look forward to your this project you have, and thank you very much, Gillian, for talking with us today, and we will
My pleasure.
go onward.
Yes, you too. Thanks for all that you do. I love your Planetary Gig Society, and I've been sending your talks to a lot of my friends,
Okay.
and it's really good stuff. Keep it up. Love it.
All right, will do. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jefferson.
See you around, everybody.